6:15 in Douala. Thanks and welcome to the news with me, Kejang Henry Atembi. Now let's flag off with our headlines. The historic 1992 presidential run, Bello Buba Maigari has thrown his heart back into the ring for the 2025 race, effectively ending a decade-long alliance with the ruling CPDM and reshaping the political calculus in Cameroon's northern stronghold. And with Issa Chiroma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari both entering the 2025 presidential race, analysts warn that a fractured opposition could once again hand victory to the incumbent. Cameroon's voters' roll has expanded by over 373,000 new registrants from January to June 2025, pushing the total electorate beyond 8 million. The figures disclosed by Elekam Board Chair Eno Abrahams Egbe signal a steady rise in civic engagement ahead of the 2025 presidential polls. And tragedy struck in Douala Peka 16 neighborhood as landslide at a construction site killed one and injured two others. Triggered by heavy rains, the incident highlights growing concerns over safety protocols on urban excavation site. The 6:15 news rolls on in a split second, coming to you live from our studios in Douala.
Canal International. Canal International.
You can equally reach us on our respective platforms on Canal International. We begin from Yaoundé, where 33 years after his historic 1992 presidential race, Bello Buba Maigari has thrown the heart back into the ring and, of course, breaking out what is known as decades-long alliance with the ruling CPDM party. And, of course, this is reshaping the political calculus in Cameroon's northern strongholds. Hyacinth Chair reports from Yaoundé.
In a few words, Bello Buba Maigari puts an end to the speculations that have been animating the Cameroonian political sphere for few days. At the announcement of his candidacy, a clamor erupts in the room.
Acceptez la proposition, je suis désormais le candidat à l'élection.
The highly anticipated Central Committee meeting of the National Union for Democracy and Progress on June 28 in Yaoundé seals the fate of the political alliance with the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement, the CPDM. Since the 1992 presidential election, where the NUDP ranked third with 19.22% of the vote, the party of Bello Buba Maigari has collaborated with the ruling party in the presidential election of 2004, 2011 and 2018. However, in this somehow peculiar political marriage, the NUDP has maintained its independence and identity as an opposition party in different elections, always fighting hard to have elected officials in the council and parliament. With the broken pact, some Cameroonians highly speculate another exit from the government, as it is the case with Issa Chiroma Bakari few days ago. The National Executive Committee meeting at the Yaoundé Conference Center is equally attended by other key presidential aspirants.
And with Issa Chiroma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari both entering the 2025 presidential race, analysts are warning that a fractured opposition could once again hand over victory to the incumbent, and that the spotlight now turns to whether Cameroonians or Cameroon's opposition can overcome what is known as the internal split and to mount the pressure or credible challenge against the incumbent. Ndimori.
The potential candidacy of Issa Chiroma Bakari and Bello Buba for the 2025 presidency raises questions about its impacts on the opposition.
Adding to the opposition pool of presidential candidates only weakens that pool. And so I think the best thing for them to do is to agree to have one opposition candidate hopefully who should be an Anglophone.
The time has come when the opposition will be jubilating and thinking that greatly is the alliance of North-South, which we have talked of, Issa Churuma, Akeremuna, Buba Bello, and that will be a game changer for the next election, as many Cameroonians are always thinking that if there is no opposition coalition, then the opposition are more egoistic than ever before.
Political analysts say the opposition might face challenges due to divided voices, potentially weakening their chances against the incumbents.
The youth of today are looking for politicians who vibrate at the same frequency with them, who understand the youth problems, who understand that youth need jobs, who understand that we need to change our education, who understand that the government and the nation has to be productive, not just telling stories and celebrating.
We are saying many are still encouraged to drop out because the center can no more hold. 43 years in power, Issa Churuma said, were just 43 years of unfulfilled promises, including his own people in its various constituencies.
Multiple candidates could lead to conflicting messages and diluted support.
Cameroonians and the CPDM elites should stop the narrative that the fragility of the CPDM or the coming of independent candidates that were in the coalition will favor more of the ruling party is fake news.
According to political analysts, the outcome will also depend on voter behavior, candidates' strategies, and the political landscape. However, the opposition's prospects in the 2025 presidential election appear uncertain, with the potential candidacies of Issa Churuma Bakari and Bello Buba likely to exacerbate existing divisions. Political analysts say unless the opposition can find a way to unify behind a single candidate or cohesive strategy, their chances of success may be significantly diminished and the CPDM might still emerge as winner.
Thanks very much, Maureen D. And Cameroon's voters' roll has expanded by over 373,000 new registrants from January to June 2025. In fact, this has actually pushed the total electorate beyond 8 million people. And the figures were disclosed by Eno Abrams Egbe that actually signaled a steady rise in civic engagement ahead of the presidential poll. Beatrice Ngamo reports.
As the countdown to eventual convening of the electorate narrows, Elections Cameroon is intensifying efforts to strengthen the electoral process. This by reinforcing security of National Electoral Register, continuous improvement in service delivery, and the regular upgrades of electoral equipment among the pressing items on the institution's program.
These assessments will provide clarity on the alignment between allocated resources, institutional performance, and expected outcomes.
It is in this context that the second ordinary session of the Electoral Board for 2025 held during the weekend in Yaoundé. At the heart of the discussion was the review of activities report covering the period from May to June. The outstanding point is that the number of newly registered voters continues to rise. This far, it stands at over 3,700 and 73,500 voters. This figure brings the electoral register to over 8 million voters.
This report offers us a comprehensive overview of the progress made towards achieving our operational objectives and highlighting the current challenges faced in the implementation of the 2025-2026 strategic plan.
Opportunity to welcome a new member of the team, Father Matthias Stefan Bell, a Roman Catholic priest who headed the multimedia center of the Episcopal Conference, served as Vatican radio correspondent, and also served at the National Communication Council.
He brings to the Electoral Board strong moral integrity, deep communication expertise, and a firm grasp of governance and dialogue. He is indeed an asset for Elections Cameroon. Reverend Father Bell, be assured that you can count on the support and solidarity of each and every one of us to encourage you in this new challenge. Welcome on board, Honorable.
The session is to fine-tune the board's strategy to ensure a smooth presidential and other elections this year in the country.
Meanwhile, with just 3 months to go for the presidential polls, thousands of voters in Cameroon's economic capital are already flogging the Elecam centers to collect their voters' cards, and over 200,000 voters' cards or new ones have been delivered in the region. Ambo Gladys Diban.
At various Electoral offices across Douala, a steady stream of voters is showing up each day to collect their cards in anticipation of the 2025 presidential election. Officials say more than 216,000 new voter cards have been received in what is now the fourth batch distributed in the region.
Nous venons de recevoir.
We have just received the fourth batch of voter cards, precisely 216,394. We immediately dispatched the cards to the appropriate registration centers. Voters can collect them by presenting either their national ID card or the voter card receipt.
La carte peut se retirer.
The increase in turnout at card collection points reflects rising civic engagement among residents eager to exercise their democratic rights, but challenges remain. Some voters have reported delays in locating their polling information or collecting their updated cards.
My card, I vote in ballot, but I've moved. I came here to request in my post. It's 6 months now, and I have been asked to come back. I was told to come back on Friday as they are still sorting the cards by polling centers.
Despite logistical setbacks, Electoral officials maintain that the process is progressing steadily and urge the public to be patient as they work to streamline the distribution.
We are receiving many people each day. We are doing our best to arrange the cards efficiently to speed up the withdrawal process.
With the clock ticking towards election day, Electoral has also been under pressure to finalize voter transfers, logistical deployment, and resolve internal restructuring, all under the watchful eyes of voters eager to make their voices heard at the ballot box.
Well, thanks, Gladys. And tragedy struck Douala's Speaker 16 neighborhood today as landslide actually killed one and of course injured 2 at the construction site. In fact, 2 laborers died as the heavy rains actually triggered the slide. This incident has actually raised concerns about safety protocols at construction sites, especially during the rainy season. Details with Morindi.
1 person has died and 2 others were injured in a landslide that struck a construction site in area Douala this Monday, June 30, 2025. The incident occurred around 9 a.m. when 3 manual laborers were buried by a large mass of earth during a ground leveling operation. Amateur footage from the scene shows local residents desperately trying to recover the body of one of the workers who was killed instantly. The 2 survivors were pulled from the rubble and rushed to a nearby hospital where they are currently receiving medical care. According to building experts who arrived at the site shortly after the incident, carrying out excavation work during rainy season poses significant risk. Authorities confirmed that the body of the deceased has been transported to Lakentini Hospital's mortuary. The city of Douala has experienced persistent heavy rainfall over the past 24 hours, contributing to soil saturation and increased vulnerability to landslides, a growing problem in the economic capital during the rainy season.
And 12 suspects have been arrested by the Bafia gendarmes in what is known as a high-impact security sweep. It carried them to Bukito, where weapons and hard drugs were confiscated. Details with Beatrice Ngamo. We're expecting Beatrice's report on the security sweep that took place in Bukito, orchestrated by the Bafia Gendarmerie, where 12 suspects were arrested.
It is the survival of the fittest here along the Electoral and Mange stretch of road. Each person adopts their own strategy to navigate over. Some accelerate to gain momentum, raining clouds of dust, while others prefer to take their time, hoping to avoid hard hits. Some drivers simply opt for a U-turn, embracing another direction instead of taking the risks. And summoning the courage to drive over is not enough, as some will have to offload passengers before embarking while reloading at the end of the battle, a difficult daily challenge.
Avec les passagers, les coups qui sont là-bas, la pluie nous gâte la route, on ne peut même pas monter. Voilà mes cadans qui veulent quitter même là-bas, ils se demandent de décharger, tourner pour rentrer. C'est insupportable, insupportable, on souffre.
Quand il pleut, vraiment c'est déployable.
The drivers and riders are fed up with seeing their vehicles damaged, enduring on a stretch where work is announced and started every year, but never reaching a finishing point.
Ils sont fatigués, père. On achète une voiture, ça fait pas 6 mois, la route à manger, ça passe, ça, on dépense au gros garage.
Ils nous ont bloqué la route là pratiquement pendant des semaines. Moi je croyais qu'aujourd'hui ça devait déjà être terminé. Mais malheureusement, chaque jour, nous sommes comme ça.
The population, however, continue to cry and demand for the rehabilitation of the road.
Nous allons faire comment? Aidez-nous. Aidez-nous. Même si c'est les élections, même si c'est quoi on va faire, mais aidez-nous d'abord.
And a flyover option was long announced here, but from all indications, the waiting will be very long.
And has in charge during the cuttings for this edition. Sorry for that mix-up. I've been Kejang Henry at Timbi. Lee Pijo is coming up with the brief, the actuality. From all of us is goodbye.